Hey guys, it's Ash from the Awakened State. So today I want to talk about habits and how habits can link to our manifesting, which link to our energetics, and it shows us if we're in misalignment or alignment. So let's dive in. Hey guys, so today I really want to talk about misalignment. So here's the thing. Once I really started learning this work and how it really connects to the energetics, the mind-body connection, manifesting, and really looking at all of the different layers of how everything interconnects together, it became really obvious to me how to spot misalignment. And you will feel misalignment when you notice that there's areas of your life that are drastically chaotic, drastically contractive, drastically in a state of resistance. And we will see this and feel this in how we take action, how we show up in our beliefs, in how we're literally manifesting. And so the more I've really began to do this work, it shows me a lot about how we can simplify misalignment. Because, you know, when you have something come up for you, it is a sign of misalignment. You know, when you get a toothache, that is a sign of misalignment. It's a moment to reconnect back to your throat chakra. When you have a stomach ache or a flu or something comes up for you, that is actually a sign that you're in misalignment and your body is kind of screaming at you to get back into alignment. So we think that alignment is this fluffy term in like the spiritual community, that it's all just, you know, sunshine, kisses, and rainbows. And the reality is alignment is you tapping into your natural well-being. The person inside of you who already knows how to eat healthy, who knows how to make sure they move their body, the person inside of you that knows deep down that you are healthy, that health is your natural birthright. And when we tune into that, we can actually see that alignment is really simple to understand, because it's really showing you that when you're in misalignment, there's something that's clogging up the channel. And I am not of that mentality where we can walk around and say that we're always in alignment, or that we're always been in a state of alignment, and that it's really not about misalignment versus alignment, and how, like, when we're in a state of resistance, we're also in alignment, because that's not true. When we're in a state of resistance, we're resisting alignment. When we're in a state of pure alignment, we're in the flow and dance of life. Like, there's a huge disconnect happening here if we only believed that we're in a state of alignment when we're like forcing ourselves to be higher vibrational, or forcing ourselves to be positive when we feel like shit. That is not alignment. That's delusion. That's a place where we're trying to frantically be in a higher state of consciousness, but the reality is our vibrations are saying the dynamic opposite of what we want. And that's where a lot of people get confused. So I invite you to really look at, where do you currently feel the most misalignment in your life? And there is no judgment, no shame, but that's where the work begins, because it's really about identifying, do you feel in alignment in your life, or do you feel a lot of misalignment? And looking at bringing this back. So I want you to take a minute here and think about, well, how does this connect to my habits? How does this connect to my beliefs? How does this connect to my energy and how I show up? Like, do I feel really drained in this situation? Do I feel really low and like sad? Or do I feel really just depleted and exhausted? Or do I feel really lit up and ready to take on the world and just wanting to go for it and super motivated? Because there's a huge difference right there. And you will feel the difference when you're in misalignment, because misalignment will feel contracting. it will feel contracting in your energy. And you'll start to feel it as if, you suddenly want to slow down. You don't feel as up to doing things as much. You might feel it as like being tired out of nowhere. You could feel it as just feeling drained in a particular situation. And you will start to notice the difference. Because as I've done this work, misalignment literally feels like we've just created these stories that don't serve us anymore, but we're continuing to settle there. And as we continue to settle there, we feel in our bodies something is up, like something is going on and it doesn't serve me anymore. And maybe it's toxic, maybe it's just something to do with like low standards or low value or any of those things. And we start to feel that. And then what happens here is we have to see it like this, is it's like, it's a moment where you're in a bad habit. Like that's really all misalignment is. It's a bad habit. It's a moment of recognizing not that it's wrong to be in the bad habit, not that we have to judge ourselves for being in the bad habit, not that we have to shame ourselves, but we have to bring awareness to the fact that if it's a bad habit, we can change it. And not only can we change it, we can learn how to build a new momentum to sustain a healthier habit. And this is a very simplistic way of looking at alignment, but I actually find it to be the most powerful, because when you look at habits, I want you to consider someone who emotionally eats. This was something I personally actually overcame. So like, true story here. And there was this problem I noticed is every time I would get stressed out, I would reach for ice cream. And then it started to become a habit where every evening I could finally have a moment to relax and enjoy myself and sit down and eat ice cream and feel pleasure, feel the moment where it's just like, I can give back to myself. It's okay. And the thing is I was emotionally eating. And I started to notice this habit. And this is literally a true story, and as I started to notice it, I began to be like, every day at 9:00, I really want ice cream. And I'm like, I started to be like, but do I actually want ice cream? Or am I just in a habit of wanting ice cream? And then so I started to question it, and I started to look at, what am I doing around the time that I want the ice cream? And I began to notice I was emotionally eating. And the long story short of this is realizing that I had to start substituting a healthier habit. And then eventually what I began to notice is there was a connection here between the stress I was feeling and feeling emotionally fulfilled. And so I began to work on satisfying the craving I was feeling with an emotional need. And this is the part that's really cool. So once you start to understand that a lot of addiction and bad habits are rooted in the body, we can also learn that it's like when you have an addiction to sweets or addiction to emotional eating, underneath is some misalignment going on, trying to scream at you and tell you that you're lacking something. And once you start seeing that, it becomes obvious that like, in that moment, maybe it was I needed more pleasure in my life, emotional satisfaction in my life. And when I started to work around these concepts, I started to realize that it's kind of like the person who's like craving something. Like their body is craving something. Now, whether this is an addiction or an obsession or addicted to relationships, addicted to food, addicted to substances, addicted to drugs. It could be anything. So I want you to think about this. When they're craving that, like they're needing something that their body is trying to communicate to them. This is the same concept of when we're in misalignment, our body is craving to be in alignment, but we're refusing to listen to it. And so what I began to notice in doing this work is like underneath the emotional eating and stuff was really like looking at like how to stop being like weirdly stressed out and in this place of fear and uncertainty and sabotage. And I began to really start to meet that need. And what I began to naturally notice is I stopped craving. And it was really interesting because it showed me that our emotional needs are usually the indication of why we have an addiction, why we have a bad habit, why we really kind of just put ourselves in a downward spiral and become addicted to something that isn't healthy for us. Because it shows us that in itself, the ice cream wasn't bad and it's great to treat yourself. But there was a point where I was just like, why am I actually eating this? I'm not even hungry right now. This is just not good. And so as I started to question it, it became obvious. It's the same concept of when you're naturally craving something with your body and you're trying to meet and satisfy that need outside of you. And you're trying to search for that frantic alignment outside of you. You will not reach it because you're still trying to crave that need within yourself. And that's when it started to become so obvious to me how your energetics, your habits, your manifesting all interconnect together, because it shows you that when you're in a holding pattern, you are also in a place where you are in pure misalignment. And that misalignment will be influenced by your habits. So we think it's really silly to kind of tune in and like switch some of these little things, like looking at my weird ice cream habit. But the reality is once I started creating the shifts and the changes within myself, it was gone. Like I suddenly didn't need it anymore. And I noticed that. And it became so obvious because it's like, once the need is fulfilled, there is no reason to crave it anymore. Once the need is satisfied, there is no longer a need or association to have because we feel fulfilled. We feel lit up. We feel expansive. We feel in alignment. And in the natural state of alignment, we will be drawn to the right foods to eat and the right things to do and the right ways to move our body, because we will naturally move in that flow and expansion, because that is the way of who we truly are inside. It's just we have all of these things that are blocking the flow, keeping us in holding patterns, keeping us in this contracted state, or keeping us in this place where we are just settling. And so our habits will show us the ways we're in misalignment. And it's interesting. And I invite you to kind of be your own little observer here and look at like, what are the little ways that you are in misalignment? I mean, and I'm not like trying to call out that you're in misalignment. Maybe you're not. But I'm just saying it's really fascinating because it shows us really simply where we feel the most contraction. And that's where the place where the work really begins, because you can start to see that it's really not about the habit. We just think it is. The reality is the habit is just revealing the energy, and the energy is just revealing the way that the manifestation is behaving. And so if you just think about this with anything, this could be like your money habits. This could look like your relationship habits. This can look like your career habits. This can look like anything. Your eating habits. This could look like anything. And you can start to see that it really will reveal for you what is going on internally. And I think turning that shift back to yourself and really seeing like, well, what am I actually craving here? Like, what is actually going on here? And start to question and start to look and start to be more aware, because the energy connects to our habits. Our habits connects to our manifestations, and that will reveal everything. So here's one really cool way to do this is if you look at your manifestations from the lens of connecting to the chakras. So like your root chakra will really connect to your money beliefs, your finances, and looking at like your habits around money, that will connect to the root chakra. If you look at your sexual relationship and your relationship with the divine feminine and masculine, that will connect with your sacral chakra. When you look at your habits around your career, your purpose work, your sense of identity and who you are as a person, that will be in your solar plexus. If you look at the habits that are connected to how you personally treat yourself, emotionally treat yourself, give yourself love, care, acceptance, all of that located in the heart chakra. If you think about this in terms of looking at the throat chakra, we got those relationships of how we communicate our needs. All of those habits will be connected to the throat chakra. If you look at your third eye, you have to see, are you in fear or soul? Are you operating from intuition or fear? Those habits will be influenced in how you take decisions. And finally, when you look at the crown, you'll see that you are either in alignment or misalignment. And it all will snowball and show you how you are manifesting, how you are creating, how you are using your habits to either make or break your manifesting. And I say that because I really, really get it. Like, it's so interesting how once we notice things, it starts to become more obvious on how we can move ourselves back into alignment. So I invite you to play with this concept. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. You guys have a good week.